The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, March 19th, episode 102, here on the NOK Network, the video news podcast. Folks, on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys from Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson, along with the one and only Buffalo Various, who's chosen all of our stories for us. Thank you, Tarra.
Well, hello, Hobbies. How are you today? Things are, it's been a great week. I don't know about you, but I've had a pretty awesome week, and I'm glad everyone's back with us. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He is our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds all fine and well, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad. How are you today, Hobbies?
I'm great. I'm great. It was a great weekend, a rough Monday, but it's the week again, and it's just back into the whole ritual of working hard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I hear you. It's been a busy week for me, but we've gotten through it, and it's going well. The weekend was kind of quiet, and I like that on my weekends now and then. So I'm back at it, and we're here with some amazing stories from Bufo. I am so excited, especially about that first story, mainly because I myself microdose with this substance.
Right. Well, oh man, this first story is just so great. It comes out of the Psychology Today, and it's written by Connor H. Murray, who is PhD psychedelic neuroscience, and how even a microdose of LSD might expand consciousness. Here is the latest neuroscientific research on low doses of psychedelics.
Yeah, so this is a great article. Its key points are the psychedelic LSD has recently received a breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA. That's huge. Low doses of LSD are non-hallucinogenic, and I would vouch for that, and have claimed to have therapeutic benefits. And again, I agree with that key point. After high hallucinogenic doses of LSD, there is an increase in the complexity or entropy of the brain signals. I can't vouch for that. I haven't done high doses. Our research found complexity increases even after low doses of LSD, pointing to a therapeutic mechanism. I became a neuroscientist to help understand how humans gain deeper insight and observation into themselves, life, and during altered states of consciousness. I have never expected to write a post about microdose LSD. When I graduated with a PhD in neuroscience in 2019, I completed my thesis on a synaptic plasticity in preclinical models of cocaine and methamphetamine addiction. I was eager to pursue work on humans. I arrived at the University of Chicago with the ambition of studying altered state experiences, beginning with those induced by cannabis and its principal psychoactive constituent, THC.
Cannabis, I remember hearing this on my first day, is the human behavioral pharmacology laboratory. We have another study I'd like you to work on involving microdoses of LSD, and another involving methyl and oxide methylamphetamine, MDMA. Then maybe you can look into THC. I was exactly where I needed to. And integrated information theory, a hotly debated theory of consciousness, the more complex of a model of consciousness, the higher the level of consciousness. In practice, neural complexity increases as a function of awareness or experience. For instance, there's more complexity when you're awake compared to when you're asleep. When your eyes are open rather than closed. Seriously, complexity increases further after taking high doses of psychedelics. The increase in complexity after the use of psychedelics may be due to the serotonin receptor that psychedelics act on, which increases the sensitivity of neurons to respond. Theory of psychedelic medicine as the anthropopic brain process uses increased neural complexity during psychedelic therapy is essential to therapeutic efforts, helping patients to break out of rigid, adaptive patterns. The hypothesis further suggests that the increased complexity also explains how the psychedelic-like alters arises.
Wow. However, neurocomplexity, aka brain entropy, has not been empirically tested to explain the origin of altered state effects. It's unknown whether increases in complexity might arise from other drugs that similarly induce altered states of consciousness, such as THC, or similarly increase arousal, such as methamphetamine. As reported in the journal Neuropsychopharmacology, we used EEG to find the answer, which recorded brain activity during tasks and at rest. Our 3 EEG studies in healthy participants, low doses of LSD, moderate to high doses of THC, and moderate to high doses of methamphetamine provided the opportunity to test the hypothesis that increases in neural complexity explain the origins of psychedelic-like altered states. Based on our prior work establishing psychedelic-like altered states after high doses of THC, we have hypothesized that THC, but not the low dose of LSD or moderate to high doses of methamphetamine, would increase neural complexity. Surprisingly, we found that only low doses of LSD increase complexity in a dose-dependent manner, whereas the THC and methamphetamine doses did not. while the higher... Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, the higher of the two low LSD doses tested was just high enough to elicit some self-reported effects relative to placebo. It was not high enough for participants to feel as if they were in an altered state. Participants did not or did report feeling some effects of the drug, including feelings of elation and anxiety. Surprisingly, these did not accelerate with the increased complexity after the LSD. However, the low doses of LSD also reduced low-frequency delta and theta brainwave oscillations, which did correlate with the increased elation. Speculate that if additional surveys were included in the study, adolescents, both feeling more present, experiencing a greater sense of smell, or noticing details in symbolic objects. These measures could have correlated with the increased complexity after the low doses of LSD. Our main finding was that data therapeutic mechanisms of action across both higher and microdoses of psychedelics.
Our analysis also revealed that the psychedelic-like altered states of THC correlation with the reduced alpha brainwave power, supporting prior literature suggesting that reduced alpha power could be the true maker of altered states, or marker of altered states. Indeed, prior reports have found that reduced alpha over the occipital lobe correlates to the visual effects one might experience after a high dose of LSD. However, in our study, reduced alpha was negatively related to altered states and was primarily a frontal brain phenomenon. This suggests a greater cognitive effort to curb the immersive psychedelic-like effects of THC, thus leaving open the question as to their neural origins. Much unlike THC, the methamphetamine dose increases frontal alpha, possibly suggesting a more efficient or unoccupied cognitive state. Oh, that's interesting. Finding our study leveraged two age groups, adolescents and adults under placebo conditions, finding increased complexity and reduced delta and theta with brain maturation and development without changes in alpha, beta, or gamma waves, thus nearly mirroring the brain effects of microdoses of LSD. Greater complexity has previously been reported to occur with brain development, whereas complexity is reduced in most psychiatric disorders, although findings with schizophrenia are mixed. Wow, that's interesting.
It cannot be overstated that there may be significant risk of repeated uses of psychedelics, even at the microdose level on the mind, brain, heart, especially for young people whose brains are still developing. Much more preclinical and clinical work to model and study healthy patient populations across the lifespan. Today, only one controlled clinical trial in New Zealand has been conducted to assess the effects of a microdose regimen with repeated doses of LSD taken every 3 days over a 6 period of protocol. The trial found significantly improved mood on dose days relative to placebo, but no change in measures of emotion or cognition the rest of the time in a healthy population. In addition, whether there is any therapeutic behavior or cognitive benefit to increase complexity after psychedelics, including whether it is evidence of an expanded state of consciousness or whether it is merely neural noise is pending further analysis. Wow.
In current analysis, we found that increases in neural complexity or brain entropy are not necessary for psychedelic-like altered states of effects, nor are they sufficient in their induction. However, I speculate that the brain changes we observed help to generate positive anecdotal reports of microdosing. From I feel more love for myself to the personal and spiritual growth I have experienced is significant. Based on these new data, I imagine that for those who benefit most from seeing the world in brighter light, increases in neural complexity could act like widening lenses to enrich or restore one's experience. Our work does not discount the value of psychedelic assisted therapy, where specifically trained clinicians facilitate and integrate deeply meaningful insights and observations towards emotional breakthroughs and connectiveness. The current work adds to a growing body of literature, helping us understand how these meaningful changes occur. I hope this work will inform appropriate dosage. I hope this work will inform appropriate dosages in appropriate populations towards guiding positive outcomes while reducing unnecessary risks in the emerging landscape of psychedelic medicine. Very cool article.
Man, that was a great read.
It was a bit of a long one and a little bit tricky with the wording and the way they worded things, but we got through that. Very cool.
It was written by a psychologist.
Yeah, I mean, and he's seeing that, you don't have to take high doses to get the effects. Microdosing actually is more effective than the high doses.
So this next article brings us up to the Canada border, and it is written from Mugglehead magazine by Rowan Dunn. ATMAC now opens Alberta Psychedelic Therapy Clinic, Ontario locations to follow.
This is very cool because this is my neck of the woods, everybody. I live in Ontario, Canada, and it looks like we're finally catching up with the times. So ATMA CN Psychedelic Healthcare Solutions, a joint venture between Alberta's ATMA Journey Centers and Sen Life Initiative last fall, has started providing treatments in its new Calgary and Edmonton clinics. The company also announced this week that its Ontario clinics in Toronto and London would start providing psychedelic-assisted therapies during the second quarter of 2024. That's exciting, everyone. ATMA Senna is offering ketamine treatments. It will also be providing MDMA and psilocybin therapy to eligible patients through Health Canada's Special Access Program, also known as SAP. The clinics will offer the non-psychedelic treatment of repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation as well. It uses magnetic pulses to stimulate nerve cells, which can help to reduce symptoms of depression. Wow, cool.
The Calgary and London clinics will be used in clinical trials and training programs too. The joint venture aims to open up to more clinics out of Canada. With continually emerging evidence and the coming of regulations and accreditation standards across the provinces, provider organizations must be prepared to act promptly and comprehensively to meet high level of UN healthcare standards in a new innovative industry. A ATMA Senior Chief Executive, Roberti Darda, said. Wow, Canadian government is still acting as the gatekeeper. Want to tell us about that, Tara?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. The government here likes to control everything, as they do with cannabis, to the point that cannabis is actually failing in the recreational market here in Canada because they are just too stringent. So this is interesting. In Canada, psilocybin and MDMA assisted therapy is only legally available through the SAP, a Section 56 exemption, or participation in clinical trials. These rules do not apply to ketamine treatments, which I've always found very odd, because ketamine, as we know, everybody, is a anesthetic and can be very dangerous, and people are using it recreationally and dying. So we invite clients to consider the potential benefits of the SAP program as a pathway to access psilocybin and MDMA therapies in Canada, Senna says. Healthcare providers must submit an application to Health Canada on behalf of their patients to potentially qualify for the program. Patients themselves must have a serious or life-threatening condition and have explored all available conventional treatment options, the company added. Alberta became the first Canadian province to establish a comprehensive framework of regulation for psychedelic therapy in January last year. ATMA Journey Centers then started offering a psychedelics training program for physicians and healthcare professionals in the province. Our aim is to ensure that there is access to care in regulated programs based initially on the standards in Alberta and compliant across the country as regulatory landscape evolves, Darda said in October when the venture was formed. Wow. So that's really cool. I knew about the Section 56. I knew about the SAP program. And again, it's so stringent because our government has to, keep us under their thumb that way, that even palliative cancer patients are being denied. So if they're palliative and they've tried everything else, why are they being denied their special access program? It doesn't make sense to me. These patients want to go through legal means to access therapy, but then get denied. So we have a ways to go, but I'm glad there's clinics that are pushing that boundary and trying to get this rolling so it's more widely accepted, just like cannabis was in the beginning. It was hard and now it's easier.
Well, and I'm glad you guys are having storefronts now, are doing these things, and because look what our next article here, right off of the AXIO in Denver, okay? So the AXIO, or however you pronounce that, but Denver introduces psychedelic crisis training program. So now first responders are now going through classes about crisis training program with psychedelics, man. So it's like the breakthrough that we're at. 2024 is a kick-ass year so far.
That's crazy cool. I am so excited for Denver. Way to go, Denver. A prominent national psychedelics organization is partnering with Denver to provide what it's calling a first-of-its-kind psychedelic crisis training program. Why it matters. The training will provide emergency responders with tools to help de-escalate situations involving a person experiencing a crisis while under the effects of a psychedelic, also known as a bad trip. Driving the news, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, also known as MAPS, announced on Monday it's creating a program on psychedelic crisis assessment and intervention for first responders. State of play. The training program was commissioned by the Psilocybin Mushroom Policy Review Panel, which was established in Denver after voters in 2019 passed a law decriminalizing magic mushrooms. More than 20 professionals involved in law, medicine, psychiatry, harm reduction, and law enforcement helped craft the training program, according to the statement from MAPS. That's really cool.
Behind the scenes, Denver police said in a statement they worked on facilitating the training and with panel members by reviewing and vetting the training program created by MAP. GPD Deputy Chief Joe Montoya was among the members of the panel, which issued a comprehensive report in 2021 that recommends creating a training program for our first responders. Training is not related to criminalization, but focused instead on recognizing people in crisis, according to GPD, and giving officers better tools to approach and recognize people in a psychedelic crisis. What they're saying, Kevin Matthews, former president of the Policy Review Panel, in a statement called the training program a giant leap forward in public health and safety with psilocybin and natural medicines in Denver.
Zoom in. Paranoia, anxiety, fear, and disorientation are some symptoms of a bad trip, Betty Altworth, Communications and Post-Prohibition Strategy Director at MAPS, tells us. However, she says people in this state generally don't pose a danger to themselves or others. Between the lines, providing care for someone facing a psychedelic crisis requires calming efforts and reassurance from first responders who need to create a sense of safety, Aldworth tells us. What's next? While the training program was developed for Denver, Aldworth says it could be useful for first responders in other cities and states. Absolutely. Gone should be the days of people having bad trips and ending up at the ER because they don't know what to do, and then basically being told there's nothing we can do, sit there and ride it out. Having those intervention tools would be so key for these people who, are going to be just fine, but how embarrassing to have to, when you could just be brought back down with some, crisis intervention, sounding bowls, calm voices, yes, we see what you're seeing. It's okay.
So it's proactive. It's proactive on a situation of misuse of years on other stuff when it received. So I like the fact that they're dotting already a crisis training program for the first responders to be able to respond if someone's having a bad trip or took too much, or just in case there's a situation. And we didn't do that with the opiate, with the heroin, with the pills, and weaning people off of that as we, we just kind of gave them, and they talk to your doctor, and who the hell's honest with their doctor, So you had all these people just munching on pills, running around. So I love this. This is good. And then it brings us to our medication time, because I'm ready to talk.
Yeah, it is. It's time to pay some bills. Stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be back with more articles that Bufo has chosen, making mainstream media news.
And we'll be back here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
Put it away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh is a virtual gathering where consumers meet up for a toke and some laughs at 7 p.m. Eastern nightly. Originally aired on Info with Kim social media pages, the IWK 710 Daily Sesh is now also podcasted on NOK Network. Rotating joint hosts bring you a variety of content during this 30-minute virtual smoke sesh. Take a break from the stresses of life and put it all away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. Podcasted nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NOK Network.
Are you a Northern Ontario resident? Searching for credible information on cannabis as a medicine? No Sir is here to help. Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No Sir Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referrals, and more at No Sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no sir to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca.
NOK Network presents Ganja News Update. Join joint host Christine Tarra and Michelle Parada as they bring you their global cannabis news update. Catch the Ganja News Reporters weekly on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as they cover cannabis news from around the globe in the 60-minute video news podcast. Stay up to date with Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern on NOK Network. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year. Movie nights. Spotlight on entertainment. And live on location event coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Rumble. Check out our webpage at www.noktnetwork.com. Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at NOKNetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@NOKNetwork.com.
Welcome back to the show in our regular program.
And we're back from our medication session live on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
We have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Alrighty. Well, that was a good break. I was pretty toasty on that one. I took a couple of dab hits.
Nice.
So this next article is actually going to be a different read. So I tried to go to Forbes to get it, but it wouldn't let me get this article. But this is based off of Dave Hodges in Oakland, California, who was interviewed with Forbes, correct?
Yeah. So Kim and I have interviewed him, and I believe you as well, Hobbies, interviewed him when you were filling in while I was on vacation, and we actually discussed his church on the show. Was it last week? I believe we talked about the dosage calculator that they have from Church of Ambrosia. So this is really cool. He made Forbes magazine, everybody. So it's the prophet of shroom. Dave Hodges founded San Francisco's Church of Ambrosia on the belief that psychedelic mushrooms are a sacrament and can reveal life's true purpose inside America's largest and trippiest megachurch. And this is written by Will Yankovic at Forbes staff. When meeting the mushroom priest of San Francisco, one must first pass 2 armed guards wearing bulletproof vests and then clear a metal detector. Wow, that's some security. There was a stabbing right outside this door the other week, says Pastor Dave Hodges, the 42-year-old founder and leader of the Church of Ambrosia, which he describes as a non-denominational religious organization founded on the belief that cannabis and psilocybin mushrooms are sacrament that can be used as spiritual tools. Founded 5 years ago in Oakland, Hodges recently opened the church's second location in San Francisco's Soma neighborhood. You see people smoking crack and shooting up, people overdosing, Hodges says, explaining how this city is rife with crime and other street plagues. You can see why we're not the problem. Hodges, who is wearing a plaid shirt, black chinos, and New Balance sneakers, looked more like an IT specialist than a religious leader who claims to have met God during his own magic mushroom-inspired bush-burning moment in 2019. The ceremony ended with 3 bright, shining golden beings who identified themselves as the oldest of the mushroom gods, sitting down with me and telling me why I went through everything in my life, and they needed me for what I'm supposed to do, says Hodges, in that certain California way where it is hard to tell if he is crazy, enlightened, or a little bit of both. And then they told me what I needed to do was make sure that people have access to these sacraments and spread the knowledge. Wow, that's really cool. I've heard his story before, but it's so cool that, I mean, he made Forbes magazine. That's pretty mainstream.
Right. If you are a subscriber to Forbes, you can read the full story at Forbes homepage right now, man. Prophet of the shrooms. Dude, how awesome is that? And he's got a bunch of shrooms in his hands, and dude, this is cool.
Absolutely. So proud of him. I mean, I love what they're doing down there. That's absolutely crazy that he's in that neighborhood now too. So maybe, he can help some of those people that are having problems out there on the street, and introduce them to something that's going to change their lives for the better.
Well, I enjoyed meeting up with him and learning and watching somebody's career as they go off into worlds unknown. I mean, a psychedelic church, you wouldn't even think about it 20, 30 years ago.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that would have been called a hippie commune, and now it's actually a church, not a hippie movement. So yeah.
So our next article brings us to neurosciencenews.com, and we have mushroom extract outperforms synthetic psilocybin in psychiatric therapy. And this article, it doesn't know who wrote it.
I don't see it either, but it is from the Neuroscience News. I'm actually excited about this as well, because we talk about this on Open Your Eye with numerous people who have done both the synthetic and non-synthetic. So this is very cool. Summary: a new study reveals that psilocybin containing mushroom extracts exhibit a more potent and enduring effect on synaptic plasticity compared to its synthetic counterpart. Interesting. This research highlights the potential of natural psychedelic compounds to revolutionize the treatment of psychiatric disorders, with alarming statistics indicating a significant portion of patients unresponsive to existing medication. This study opens new avenues for nature-based psychiatric treatments. Key facts. 1. Enhanced neuroplasticity. The mushroom extract demonstrated a stronger and more prolonged impact on synapse plasticity, potentially offering unique therapeutic benefits. Metabolic profile differences. Metabolic analysis indicated distinct metabolic profiles that mushroom extract and synthetic psilocybin, hinting at the former's unique influence on oxidative stress and energy production pathways. Wow, that was a mouthful. Controlled cultivation feasibility. Despite the challenges of producing consistent natural extracts, controlled mushroom cultivation offers a promising approach to replicate extracts for medicinal use.
A new study led by O'Shea, a PhD student, and Dr. Alexander Botvinnik, under the guidance of researchers Dr. Suzuri Lipschitz, psychiatrist Professor Bernard Blair from the University and Medical Center suggests that mushroom extract containing psilocybin may exhibit superior efficacy when compared to chemically synthesized psilocybin. The research focusing on a symptomatic persistence in mice and whales, promising insights into the potential therapeutic benefit of natural psychedelic compounds in addressing psychiatric disorders. Hey man, don't put it on the animals, let us puppets do it. No, I'm just kidding.
The study indicates that psilocybin containing mushroom extract could have a more potent and prolonged impact on synaptic plasticity in comparison to chemically synthesized psilocybin. Millions of individuals globally constituting a significant portion of the population grapple with psychiatric conditions that remain unresponsive to existing pharmaceutical interventions. Alarming statistics reveal that 40% of individuals experiencing depression find no relief from currently available drugs, a trend similarly observed among those with OCD. Moreover, with the approximately 0.5% of the population contending with schizophrenia at any given time, there exists a pressing demand for innovative solutions tailored to those who derive no benefit from current medications. In response to this urgent need, psychedelic drugs are emerging as promising candidates capable of offering transformative solutions.
The study's preliminary findings shed light on the potential divergence in effects between psilocybin-containing mushroom extracts and chemically synthesized psilocybin. Specifically, the research focused on the head-switch response to synaptic proteins related to neuroplasticity and metabolomic profiles in the frontal cortex of mice. Oof, that was a mouthful. The
Right?
indicates that psilocybin-containing mushroom extract may exert a more potent and profound effect on synaptic plasticity when compared to synthesized psilocybin. Oh, wow.
Significantly, the extract increased the levels of synaptic proteins associated with neuroplasticity in key brain regions, including the frontal cortex hippocampus, amygdala, and striatum. This suggests psilocybin-containing mushroom extract may offer unique therapeutic benefits not achievable with psilocybin alone. Metabolic analysis also revealed noteworthy differences between psilocybin-containing mushroom extract and chemically synthesized psilocybin. The extract exhibited a distinctive metabolic profile associated with oxidized stress and energy production pathways. Am I in the right spot? Yeah, I am.
Yeah. I accidentally scrolled. I was like, whoa, these open up new possibilities for the therapeutic use of natural psychedelic compounds, providing hope for those who have found little relief in conventional psychiatric treatment. As the demand for innovative solutions continues to grow, the exploration of psychedelic drugs represent a crucial avenue for the development of transformative and personalized medicine. Additionally, in Western medicine, there has historically been preference for the isolated active compound rather than utilizing extracts, primarily for the sake of gaining better control over dosages and anticipating no effects during treatment. The challenge with working with extracts lay in the ability in the past to consistently produce the exact product with a consistent compound profile.
Huh. Contrastingly, ancient medicinal practices, particularly those attributing therapeutic benefits to psychedelic medicines, embrace the use of extracts or entire products, such as consuming the entire mushroom. Although Western medicine has long recognized the entourage effect associated with whole extracts, the significance of this approach gained recent prominence. A major challenge with natural extracts lies in achieving a consistently stable compound. Specifically with plants, however, mushrooms present a unique case. Mushroom compounds are highly influenced by their growing environment, encompassing factors such as substrate composition, CO2 to O2 ratio, light exposure, temperature, and microbial surroundings. Despite these influences, controlled cultivation allows for taming of mushrooms, enabling the production of a replicable extract. This research not only underscores the superiority of extracts with diverse compounds, but also highlights the feasibility of incorporating them into Western medicine due to the controlled nature of mushroom cultivation.
Wow. Well, there's the author, Danae Marks, out of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
Yeah, great article.
Man, it's impressive.
It is. We talk about it quite a bit, Kim and I, especially on Open Your Eye, because it comes up so often when we interview people about the natural whole plant therapy versus like the synthetic stuff they're using in some of the clinical trials and through the SAP programs and different stuff. And people have kind of said the same thing where, you know, the synthetic hits hard, but it's not the same as like the whole plant, you know, eating the mushrooms or in a capsule, or even just non-synthesized product. So that's really cool that they're finding the same, that, you know, whole plant is way better than synthesized in a lab.
So our last article brings us to Disciples. Here, the new research sheds light on psychedelics' complex relationships to psychosis and mania. And this is written by Eric Dolan.
In a new study published in JAMA Psychiatry, researchers led by Otto Simonson of Karolinska Institute Department of Clinical Neuroscience have cast new light on the controversial topic of psychedelic drug use among adolescents. Their study suggests that when accounting for use of other substances, the naturalistic use of psychedelics like LSD, and psilocybin may be linked to fewer psychotic symptoms in teenagers. However, the study also uncovers that the relationship between psychedelic use and manic symptoms may hinge on an individual's genetic vulnerability to conditions such as schizophrenia or bipolar 1 disorder. With rising trends in the use of psychedelics amongst U.S. adolescents, understanding the potential risks and benefits of these substances are more crucial than ever. While psychedelics have been shown to be relatively safe in controlled settings, there's a gap in our knowledge about the effects of their uncontrolled naturalistic use especially among younger populations.
This gap in knowledge, coupled with concerns about the risk of psychotic or manic episodes in individuals with personal or family histories of psychiatric conditions, has led researchers to seek for genetically nuanced insights. The study tapped into child and adolescent twin studies as part of the Swedish Twin Registry. The research focused on a substantial cohort of 16,355 twins who at the age of 15 provided self-reported data on their past use of LSD or psilocybin. Importantly, a subset of these twins, numbering 9,426, also contributed phenotype data. These adolescents were part of this follow-up series of assessments that have been initiated when they were just 9 years old, with specific follow-ups at age 15, 18, and 24. This answers detailed questions about their experience with psychotic and manic symptoms. Psychotic symptoms involve in touch with reality, such as experiencing hallucinations or delusions, while marked symptoms are characterized by abnormally elevated mood, energy levels, or irritability. Initially, a straightforward analysis suggested that psychedelic use was associated with an increase in mood symptoms. However, this picture changed dramatically once adjustments were made for the use of other substances. After accounting for the concomitant use of drugs like alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, and others, a striking reversal was observed. Adolescents who reported use psychedelics like LSD or psilocybin actually exhibited fewer psychotic symptoms compared to those who had not used these substances.
Wow. The research went a step further by exploring the influence of genetic predisposition on the relationship between psychedelic use and mental health outcomes. The researchers did not find a significant effect of genetic vulnerability to schizophrenia or bipolar 2 disorder on the incidence of psychotic symptoms related to psychedelic use. But the pattern was different for manic symptoms. Adolescents with a higher genetic risk for these conditions experienced more manic symptoms following psychedelic use compared to those with a lower genetic risk. This finding suggests that genetic factors may play a crucial role in modulating individual responses to psychedelics, particularly concerning manic symptoms. Taken together, the findings in this study suggest that after adjusting for other drug use, naturalistic use of psychedelics may be associated with lower rates of psychotic symptoms among adolescents, the researchers explained. At the same time, the association between psychedelic use and manic symptoms seemed to be dependent on genetic vulnerability to psychopathology, such as schizophrenia or bipolar 1 disorder. As with any study, the new research has limitations to consider: the relevance on self-reported data, potential bias, and the lack of longitudinal follow-up initiative caution in interpreting the findings. Moreover, the significant circumstances of psychedelic use, such as the environment and dosage, remained unexplored, which could also significantly influence outcomes. Importantly, researchers are unable to rule out the possibility of reverse causality. In other words, it's possible that those who exhibited fewer psychotic symptoms might be more inclined to use psychedelics compared to those who exhibit more psychotic symptoms. In conclusion, this study highlights the potential genetic informative research designs to delineate the complexity interplay between psychedelic use, genetic factors, and psychotic or manic symptoms, the researchers wrote. Future studies are needed to replicate our findings and extend them to other age groups, ideally with larger samples, longitudinal data, and more objective outcome measures. For example, diagnosis in the healthcare system. Wow, that's pretty neat. Because I myself, as a youth, will admit that, I dabbled with LSD and mushrooms in high school. And again, I can't say that it negatively affected me. So that's kind of neat.
These sociology researchers where they go in and take people's stories and accumulate them together. Now they're doing them with the youth. We did a couple other stories where they're doing it with people's mystical adventures and all that. And I don't know, man. It's I don't know how that's any different than giving a guy a mushroom and watching what he does and then giving them the therapeutic. I kind of when we read those studies, the ones where they're watching them, it's a situation. It's a little harder for the patient to just brag about some imaginary story just to get on the internet. It's
right.
I don't know how to absorb the knowledge I get from these sociological studies they're doing.
Right, exactly. It's hard to say, and like they said, with self-reported data is so it's individual, right? Like one person could say, yeah, I flipped out, and one person could say they didn't. But if someone was observing them, what did that actually look like, right? So it's kind of hard to say.
Right, and if when I start losing my shit, sometimes if somebody doesn't call me on it, I'm counting the stones in the shells. It's that was Sunday's true, was counting the shells, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Right, yeah. But you wouldn't recognize that, but someone would tell you were doing that, right? So it's hard when you're self-reporting. It can be very skewed, but it also is also interesting that they're finding it really isn't that big of a deal as far as they can see in either group. It just needs to be more, controlled maybe for some people.
Exactly, and it was a great end of another good series of this week here on the March 19th for the episode 102. We're here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network. Thank you for joining us here and for tuning in on our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media site.
Absolutely. We hope you enjoyed our update on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors, to Joint host Tarra Simpson and to Grupo Malvarius for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining us each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Rigger again. And from the Kirkland Lake on our way out.
Enjoy your week, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty